says reactions. My question to you is, if you think that none are free until all are free, go ahead and give a thumbs up or a hand. All right. And if you believe that, hey, I could be free. As a matter of fact, I'm free right now. And everybody else might not be free, but I'm free. If you believe that that is the truth, then go ahead and give a thumbs up as well. Okay. Thank you, Kristen. I appreciate your honesty. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Lily. Okay. Perfect. Good deal. So none are free until all are free. Is that really true? Do you live that way? You know, do you live that way? You know, I'll share a little personal story. Is that many years ago, 1999, I got an opportunity to go on a talk show. Not a talk show, a game show. I went on to the Hollywood Squares, and I became the first 5-time champion on the Hollywood Squares with Whoopi Goldberg as the center square. That was way back in the day, right? Now, I had a friend, and I have a friend, Ananda, who said to me, when you win, we all win. When you win, we all win. There is no personal good. There is no personal good. When you win, I win. Now, if we relate this, when you win, I win, that there is no personal good, then is it true then that none are free until all are free? Think about Jesus, the Christ. Think about a Buddha. Think about all the spiritual avatars. Do you think they were free? Do you think that they experienced freedom? So let me jump right in. Whoever said that none are free until all are free, you are correct. And whoever said, no, I'm free, and maybe some other people are not experiencing freedom, you're correct too. And there's a fine line in being correct. So here's what I want to share with you is that freedom is our birthright. It is in the absolute who and what we are. So when I am free, all are free. Or when none are free, you know, if nobody is free, we're still experiencing freedom. It is our birthright. However, because I am living in this human form, my experience of my freedom has degrees. My experience of my freedom has degrees. And so when we think about spiritual people, and they experience a certain type of freedom, especially from like fear, doubt, worry, shame, blame, and they get some freedom and they go, wow, let me share with you what I did. Or when we think about all these amazing 12-step programs where people experience the freedom of shopping or alcohol or drugs or being in debt, you know, and they go, whoo, I'm free. Like I am finally experiencing freedom. Let me share with you how I did this. When we look at our vision and mission at Centers for Spiritual Living, you know, our purpose on the bigger organizational scale is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. However, if we're all asleep, there's nobody doing any awakening. We can't awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence if we are asleep. So what happens is that in our human realm, we experience levels of awakening, levels of freedom. Now, there was once this this is how this ties in with our vision and mission. Our personal vision and mission at Downey Center, our center vision and mission, it says, by valuing and empowering all, I what? I inspire a fulfilling and joyous life. And then the communal is by valuing and empowering all, we inspire a fulfilling and joyous life. Now, what's interesting and what I love, things keep unfolding and unfolding, is that until I experience it, I have to experience it first. In other words, until when I begin valuing and empowering all, I inspire a fulfilling and joyous life. And when I get to do that, then the we gets to do that. Now, I might experience a fulfilling and joyous life in a certain area of my life, and you might experience it in another area of your life. But when you do, and now it becomes part of the we, then I get to see that it's working for you, and we get to experience it. So we get the awakening as well. And so last week when I was asking about how long have you been doing hard time, I want to bring it back to that, because, when we look at the conditions of our current circumstance and situation, whether we're talking about dismantling racism, or whether we're talking about staying healthy and looking at how people stay healthy during this COVID-19 pandemic, stop for a moment and think. For those of you here, I'm going to ask a couple of questions. And this absolutely relates to your freedom, or to your emancipation, or to our emancipation. Because if none are free until we all are free, how does this fit in? And that is, I remember a woman who was doing some work on racism. She was speaking primarily to a white audience, and she said, how many of you, please stand up, but here, right here, how many of you, and you can raise your hand or not raise your hand, how many of you would trade your life and be treated as a Black person is currently being treated in the United States of America today? And there were crickets in the audience. Crickets. She goes, oh, maybe you didn't understand the question. Please stand up if you don't mind, and if you would like to be treated like a Black person is treated in the United States of America today. Nobody's raising their hands. Nobody's saying, sign me up. I want to be treated like Black people in the US are being treated today. My question goes to the group again. How many of you would like to be treated like transgender people are being treated in the world today? And my guess is that nobody is going to be raising their hand saying, sign me up. I want to be treated like transgender people are being treated. How many of us want to be treated like non-national citizens, like folks migrating in or through this country? How many of us, let's raise our hands. How many of us want to be treated like a visitor, or an unwelcome visitor into the United States of America? And probably no one is saying, sign me up for that. How many of us want to be treated like we are treating those experiencing homelessness? How many of us today want to be treated like we're treating folks with COVID-19? I can go on and on and on. And the folks, the groups that I've mentioned are folks who today in our United States of America, in our country, in our state, are not experiencing freedom. Not experiencing freedom. I had a friend once Well, I still have a friend. I once had a friend. I have many friends, but I have a friend who, a heterosexual man who was in love and he wanted to marry his wife. And he took a stand and he said, unless all people have the freedom of getting married, I will not indulge. I will not take, I will not exercise that privilege, that unearned privilege of getting married in my heterosexual relationship, because my gay peers, my gay, lesbian, and transgender peers are not free to be married. So I will not exercise that unearned privilege until all are able to marry. And when we look, we go, wow, you know, this science of mind philosophy, a lot of us then get spiritually self-righteous. Well, if everyone had this science of mind philosophy, they could experience the freedom that I'm experiencing. You know, or some folks might look and kind of go, well, you know, hey, you know, well, Reverend Sunshine got this philosophy. So, you know, maybe all Spanish speakers can get it, or maybe all Black people can get it, all Latinos can get it, or how come we don't see very many Asian folks in this philosophy? Like, the freedom that our philosophy affords us is a beautiful thing. And yet, if none are free until all are free, what does that really mean? And so it must start at home. It must start here. Like, where is it that I am maybe have the blinders on and I don't want to see, hear, or speak about the injustices or folks that are experiencing oppression or discrimination? Maybe I don't want to speak about it because to speak about it, my rights or my privileges might be then somehow, you know, skewed or taken away. And yet, as spiritual people, we're not talking about politics. We're talking about humanity. We're speaking about spiritual beings. And if I am speaking out of my mouth that I believe that there's one power, one presence, one life, that life is God, that life is perfect, that life is my life now, and that life created everything out of itself, then there's something up when I don't want to be treated like people experiencing homelessness are being treated. There's something to be said about those freedoms that I might take for granted because I am living and practicing this philosophy. You know, Jesus the Christ said, yea, though I be lifted up, I draw all onto me. And what that means is that as I awaken, am I also participating in awakening others? You know, I have said for a very long time that Downey Center for Spiritual Living is the best kept secret, because here we are, you know, 25 people strong. And if this philosophy is providing freedoms that you can speak of, then how is it that we are participating in awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence? You see, sometimes we don't understand that, you know, as infants, when we're born, when we come into this incarnation and we experience those joys of just being alive, like an infant has no clue the conditions in the world. It has no clue of what's going on out there. It doesn't even know that it's a boy or a girl. It doesn't even know that it's what race it's been categorized as. That infant child has no clue what gender it is, what sexual orientation it has. That infant doesn't even know anything about its parents or what country it's born in or how old it is. That life is just pure life and pure joy. And as that life begins to desarrollar, as it begins to unfold and grow, wow, all of a sudden, this joyous life goes from just accepting itself as the life of God to all of a sudden experiencing pain, fear, doubt, worry, all these rules that are set. Oh, boys are supposed to do this. You could play with this truck. Girls are supposed to ta ta ta. Oh, here's how you potty train. Oh, here's this, here's that. Oh no, don't do that. No, 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 no. And we begin to now raise up this child, this God life, with all of our human parameters and oppressions and rejections, and this child who is just trying to be itself, who is just trying to express its life as a life of God, is now being molded and formed into what the parents or the guardians want it to be. Do you know what it's like not to be able to fully express yourself? To have to conform, to have to adapt and assimilate and acculturate? Are we really free? Are we really free? And some of us might go, yeah, but sunshine, we have a society to live in. There's rules and regulations, and, but imagine being a parent of a young Black child who's learning how to drive and say, if you get pulled over by a police officer, keep your hands at 10 and 2. Take your hood off. Do certain things. If you're a transgender, you better have ID. You hope you find a police officer or someone who you come in contact with, even on a street late at night, that is loving and kind. And so we continue to create the atmosphere and the society in which we live. And it's incumbent upon us that if we want to live and create a world that works for everyone, that we first start here. And as we grow, that we're also bringing someone else along with us. That the message of freedom is shared with others as well. We don't have to arrive at the mountaintop to then go, hey, this is how you do it. You can get to different sections and go, come with me, come along on this ride with me of unfolding and awareness. It's an interesting dynamics, being rejected or abandoned or humiliated or betrayed or facing injustices. And many of us have some of those experiences and many of us don't. But are we really free if some of us are not free? And again, the personal experience of the freedom. Freedom is our birthright. It is our birthright. It is who we are. So we must continue to do our spiritual practice and our spiritual work, understanding that all life is God, that all life is beautiful, that all life is creative, and with that, inspire a fulfilling and joyous life. When I recognize that for myself, and it only happens, beloved, when we're engaged in our spiritual practice. And so we must, if we want what's happening out there to stop, the way that it stops is that we must do our spiritual work ourselves and then share with others. And I'm not talking about recruiting or knocking from door to door like I used to do when I was 8 years old and a Jehovah's Witness. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about living and shining our light so brightly that others are drawn to it, that others are asking, that we are actively sharing, that we're saying, hey, I don't agree with this. I don't believe this. that we're actively doing our work with one another. I want to share this last quote, and it's from the Quran, and the quote says, "And whosoever saves a life, it is as though he has saved all mankind." And of course, the Quran is written in the masculine, but let us read this for ourselves. And whosoever saves a life, it is as though they had saved all mankind. It reminds me of the story of Jesus as the shepherd. And as the shepherd, he did not let not even one sheep go astray. He would leave the 99 and get the one, because the one was just as important as the 99. And so, beloveds, that is the charge this week, is to rededicate yourself to knowing your life as the life of God, but also of knowing all life as the life of God, and of at least calling someone on the phone and reminding them of that truth. Just remind the people that you care about, remind them of who they really are. Begin to look at the places where you are still in bondage and become free yourself. Because we're not all free on the human plane until all of us are free on the human plane. Till we all reach that level of emancipation that Ernest Holmes talked about. That he believes in a world where we will all be emancipated from all discord. And so if we're to experience that on a grand scale, then it has to start with the person sitting in your chair. So what are you committed to doing this week? Is it prayer? Is it treat and move your feet? Is it meditation? Is it having a minute miracle with practitioners? Is it reading an inspirational book? Is it releasing some fear or doubt or anxiety? Is it having a session with a practitioner? Is it chanting? Is it your yoga practice? Rededicate yourself today. By the end of 2020, things could look so different than what they currently look right now. And if we, us, the 25 or so folks that are here, if we do our work, those lives that are in touch with our lives, their lives begin to change too. And we can start something right here, right now. We can start this spiritual revolution, this spiritual liberation, this spiritual freedom, so that we all experience it. Because it's already here. It is already our birthright, but not everybody is experiencing it to the degree in which folks can say, I am free. I am free. And just like none of us raised our hands to sign up to have the life or to be treated as one of those folks in any of those categories that I mentioned, then we need some freedom, honey. We need some freedom, beloveds. We need some freedom, sweethearts. Know that I tell you this and give you this message from the deepest part of my heart. Making the call now that we all should experience freedom. And so just close your eyes for a moment. And if we think of any of those folks that I mentioned earlier, and I ask myself, why wouldn't I want to be treated like someone experiencing homelessness, or transgender, or Black, or an immigrant or migrant, or someone who is sick? And it's because I have a belief, and because I know what's going on, that God in the human form, as any one of these people in any one of these categories, God as these individuals is not being held to the highest level of love and compassion and support. So I'll do that right now. I'll seek care and support for our LGBT community, for our people of color community, for our community of women, for our community of migrants, for our community who is experiencing illness. And for any other community right now, I just see humanity being kind and compassionate and loving. I see me speaking with members, with my fellow peers, and reminding them that right where you are, God is. The fullness of God is right where you are. The love of God is right where you are. You are the beautiful and unique, unrepeatable way that life is showing up on this planet. You, beloved, there's a spot within you that has never been hurt or harmed. There's no need to wear the mask of withdrawal or dependency or masochism or control or rigidity. You can let the mask go. Here, let me sit with you. Let us heal the wounds. Let us see humanity being compassionate and loving and caring with one another. Let us hear those words ourselves. If we've been discriminated against or oppressed, imagine those words coming to you from loving hands, supporting hands. See that is the natural way of humanity being. See us putting our weapons of mass destruction down. See us being in prayer and meditation together. See us awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence. See us creating a world that works for all. And as you gently open your eyes, be reminded that simply engaging in something that simple for 2 or 3 minutes, a few times a day, begins to create a shift. The shift and the change necessary here so that I value and empower all, and then so that we value and empower all. It is so, and so it is. That is today's message, beloveds. Thank you for listening.